I was chatting to a friend of mine yesterday. We had a long old chat about compost and being on the land and various things. And then he told me, he said, I had a dream last night. And I said, oh yeah, well, I had a dream, but I won't tell you about my dream. He said, no, my dream was that we were all going to get locked down in September. And I thought, oh, that's a bit scary, isn't it? Not another lockdown. And it made me think, actually, because I've had a number of emails from people saying that 2026 is likely year where they'll try and introduce another lockdown and keep us in our homes and see more small businesses go to the wall and maybe put out some more infrastructure. And maybe that is the last time they need us to be locked down before the 15-minute cities are all activated and we can't go anywhere. Now, I don't know, and I'm not saying there is going to be one, but it made me think, actually, if there was another lockdown, what would people do? As we have seen with the previous lockdown, that was a very ridiculous situation in which people were told that there was a pandemic. We all believed them. Well, some of us believed them, not all of us. Some of us could see through it, of course. But people were scared, they were made scared, and the government made people even more scared by saying to them, act as if you've got the virus, which, you know, that's not a very nice way to go about things. And we saw, of course, that people couldn't go and see their parents in care homes. We saw weddings and funerals were blocked off and you couldn't go to do all the normal things that we would want to do in life. And of course, we were told to stay 6 feet away from each other so that we could not hug and be with our friends in times of crisis, when it's the time that you really want a hug and to be near somebody and to talk. And they closed down the churches, we know, and people could barely go into pubs. And then when they did relax it, we had this ridiculous situation, whereas sitting down in a pub, you could take your mask off, but walking to the bar, you couldn't, as if this virus was so clever or dim or something that if it was on a certain height, it couldn't get to you, but if you stood up, it could. Anyway, we saw the nonsense of the previous lockdown and the scare tactics that were given to us. And I think most people have seen through that. And of course, the miracle cure that everybody lined up to had jabbed into their arm, we've now seen that perhaps that wasn't such a good thing after all. And many people have suffered. And we know that there are a lot of people who died or have had terrible incidents as a result of that. So should another pandemic, another thing be released out into the open, whether it's true or perhaps mythological, and people were told by a government who's determined to make sure that we're all safe, got to be safe, haven't we? And so therefore we better be locked up in our houses. Would you do it? Now, the reason I mention this, because it seems to me that we also do need an event to get people to unite. So perhaps, and this is the question I'm asking you, if there was another lockdown, would we actually see mass compliance, that everybody go, oh no, it's another lockdown, we better get, we love those lockdowns, we can sit at home and have a bit of furlough and look at the screens and not do anything and have people in vans come and deliver our food for us, no matter what it is, and go to the supermarket and have that lovely, delicious, processed, nutrient-free, vitamin-deficient food? Or would there be defiance, that people would say, well, no, actually, it was such a complete shambles last time. It was such a debacle. We saw small businesses shut down and not recover. We've had so many debts as a result of having that furlough that actually, no, to lock down not only ourselves and our friends from each other, but also the economy, so people couldn't go to work and do business and earn some money. And the aftershocks of it was so terrible that actually we should never, ever do that ever again. Would we see that defiance? That's the question I'm asking. And then if you did see that defiance, would that be a uniting event that actually, although perhaps certain authority would like to see us all very safe, locked up in our houses, unable to go out and do anything, or would people say, do you know what, this is now the time to unite and decide that we are going to be the ones in charge, because it seems that those that want to lock us down have gone raving mad and bonkers and not learnt from the previous experience? I don't know. It might be. Now, for Julia and I, of course, something like that is, if that's on the horizon, and of course we've been hearing from people like the Bill Gates and the WEF and all those sort of strange people who decide our future because they've got billions of pounds and we haven't, and so therefore for some reason they believe that they actually should be in charge and tell us what to do and not ask us if we want to, and we get governments to sign these sovereignty agreements where the sovereignty of a country is signed over to them, so in a pandemic they can decide the rules. If that's the case, it might be advisable for people like Julia and I and people like yourself to perhaps go to the land, to get our little piece of heaven and be well away from the towns and the cities. Now, of course, not everybody is going to be able to do that. And it may be that people will be persuaded to go and eat the nonsense food that's being sold in the supermarkets. And it may be that people like Julia and I and many of the small-scale farmers out there will be the ones who can help people have real food. Of course, if there was a big lockdown and we've seen the eradication of farm animals and things, what are you going to eat? Are we really going to eat worms? Are we going to eat the insects? Are we going to eat artificial food, synthetic burgers? Is that what we want to eat? It doesn't seem a very nice future to me. So the question I'm asking in this very simple, short video is, if we were persuaded or told, mandated that we had to stay back in our houses because there was another scary something flying around, whether it was true or not, would you be prepared to shut your door, bolt it, close the window, stay inside like some sort of little hermit and not venture out? Or would you see through the propaganda? That's the question. And if you did see through the propaganda, is that a uniting experience for mankind to get together and say, actually, we can see that the people in charge just have lost the plot, and actually we need to take back control. We need to be self-reliant and not listen to some of these mandated rules that are coming down. It's a question. It's not a directive from me. I'm not saying you should do, but I'm just wondering whether we do need a big event like that in order to wake the rest of the people up to go, not again. No, this is ridiculous. It was such a nuisance last time. Let's not do that. And perhaps it would wake people up. Be interested in your thoughts. Thank you for watching.